Hi, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Today we're going to talk about something that is a little different, but pretty much in keeping with what I do here. We're going to talk about kindness as a litigation strategy. Now, I know what you're thinking. Leo DeRocher said that nice guys finish last, and sometimes they do. But sometimes they come out on top, too, and it's important to look at the benefits of both ways of dealing with people. Now, what I have to talk about today pertains to about 95% of the population. 95% of the population, when somebody calls them and says, "Hey, I'm really sorry, but your grandmother died." 95% of us go, "Oh, that's awful. I loved my grandmother." There are about 5% of the population who go, "Yippee, man, we got a chance to make some dough here." And that's just wrong. I mean, there's no other way to think about it, really, than the fact that it's just plain wrong to think that way. But be that as it may, that's the way some people are. But you shouldn't run your life by virtue of that 5%. You should probably think about getting along better with the 95% of normal, rational people that are out there. Society has certain expectations of us. When we get up in the morning, we take a shower, we bathe, we put on deodorant, and we dress appropriately to go to work. And we do that in most cases without even thinking about it. There are also certain social niceties that we all more or less practice. I know myself, when I pull up to a four-way stop, I always try to let the other guy go. I'm usually not in that big a hurry. Just go on, I don't care. And I think a lot of people are that way. In fact, I don't really know how to respond when someone does that to me. So a lot of times if I look at them and I'm pretty sure they're not going to go, I will go on ahead. We flash our lights to let somebody know that there's a speed trap up ahead. These are just things we do because we're good folks. We're nice people, right? And everybody wants to be thought of as a nice person. For example, the other day I was in Publix, which is my favorite grocery store in the entire world, because they have lots of good things. They're employee owned, so every time you buy something at a Publix, you are helping out the people who work there. Now, I was trying to get out of there. I had my wife's birthday cake, and the lady came behind me and bumped me as she went by me. And I had been turning at the same time, so I wasn't sure whether my elbow hit her or she hit me, but it didn't matter. I said, "I'm sorry, I should be watching where I'm going." And she said, No, it was my fault. And I said, whatever, it's okay. If you're okay, I'm okay. And off we went. And again, you do that kind of thing because 20 years from now, it's not going to matter who bumped into whom, right? It's just a matter of, we expect people to be kind and nice and smile and do the right thing. In fact, if you were to codify sort of the golden rule of getting along with people in the world, it's do the right thing. Do the right thing in every given situation, and if you don't know what else to do, then do the next right thing. Getting on to the point of kindness as litigation strategy, sometimes mistakes happen. And when mistakes do happen, they are always regrettable. How you act in the next 5 minutes after that mistake hurts somebody is the most critical time. I will give you a perfectly good example. I went to Walmart in Jefferson City, Missouri, because my wife wanted some mums. And they had these mums in these big containers, and I found one that looked pretty good. I picked it up, and I started to walk out of the garden center with it. And it's big, so I can't see below the level where the front of the little container is. And somebody had put one of those hauling carts that they use to haul boxes on that stand about 6 to 7 inches above the floor. The wheels push it up about 6 to 7 inches. Didn't see it at all. Tripped over it, fell, and broke my left leg. Now, I was pretty upset because it hurt like the dickens. And I told the guy, I said, I'm pretty sure I've broken this leg. And he's like, well, okay, we'll call somebody then. So a manager came over and he said, what happened? I said, well, that cart was there. I was carrying the mums and I fell and I broke my leg. And the guy said, anybody we can call for you? I said, well, yeah, how about an ambulance? And he said, oh, I don't think you're serious enough for an ambulance. What? I said, okay, will you call my wife? Yeah, we can do that. So I gave him the number. My wife's at home getting ready to put her mums up, and looking forward to that. And she gets a call from the manager of Walmart. And the manager says, your husband is sitting in the floor in the middle of the store. And my wife says, what? She said, your husband's sitting in the middle of the floor. Okay, why is he sitting in the middle of the floor? He says he broke his leg. Well, did he? Well, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Again, that's why you call an ambulance. She said, you just stay put. I'll be right there. So she jumped in the car and she drove to Walmart. And no wheelchair. They didn't have any way to help me. I got up on one leg, and with her helping me, I hobbled to the car. We went to get my leg x-rayed. It was indeed broken. And as a result of that, I wound up suing Walmart. And I didn't really sue them because I broke my leg. I sued them because of the way they treated me after I broke my leg. If they had come to me and said, oh, geez, man, that's terrible. Let me get you a chair. Let me get you a wheelchair. We'll get you up. We'll call your wife. Do you want to go to the hospital? We can call an ambulance if you want to go to the hospital. If they had done anything like that, I would not have sued. I mean, it would have been a pain in my patootie for sure, because I've got my leg in a cast for 6 weeks. But the bottom line was I could deal with that little pain, but the idea of them calling my wife and saying he's sitting in the floor in the middle of Walmart and not saying, oh, by the way, he broke his leg, I thought that was a little bit beneath the dignity of a major corporation like Walmart. And maybe I just gave Walmart way too much credit. I don't know, but that's one of the reasons why people get sued. People do not usually sue people they like. However, they have absolutely no problem suing people they don't like. And that is sort of the takeaway here. When someone forgets to put out the wet floor sign, somebody falls and hurts themselves, the proper thing to do is get immediate aid and express remorse for the result. Now, there is a big difference between doing the right thing and saying, oh, geez, I'm sorry about what happened, and admitting negligence. When you say, I am so sorry about the result, I'm sorry that you hurt yourself, I'm sorry that you're in pain, I am so sorry you slipped on the floor. Those are expressions of basically their apologies, and in almost every state, those are inadmissible against you in court. Because we want to encourage people to be nice and do the right thing. An apology is never admissible against the defendant on the issue of negligence, unless in making that apology, the person says, I can't believe I have told Marty 17 times to put that sign out that says wet floor, and it looks like he didn't. And I came by here half an hour ago and that water was on the floor, and I meant to tell him to put that sign out, and I just forgot it. I'm really sorry. Well, the I'm really sorry doesn't come in, but the rest of that is an admission, and it is coming in. So there is a big difference between an admission, which hurts you, and an apology. Unfortunately, lawyers have mischaracterized the whole issue of an apology, and they just issue blanket statements to defendants and say, never say you're sorry, never admit fault, just get people help and keep your mouth shut. And that is exactly the wrong approach to take. They did a study in Michigan, and they got some of the, I believe it was state hospitals to participate. It's been a while since I've looked at the study, but the bottom line of the study was that when they apologized for medical errors, It reduced the number of lawsuits, and it reduced the recovery in those lawsuits because, again, people are not mad when they know the truth and when nobody's tried to pull anything over on them. That's the way people are. They accept the fact that people make mistakes. So let me give you an example from my own personal experience. Early on in my career, I was working on a case out of Nebraska. Now, our firm is located in Missouri. We work in Missouri and Kansas quite regularly. I'm not admitted in Kansas. I'm only admitted in Missouri. And one of the reasons I'm admitted in Missouri is because I only get one bar because I don't like the idea of trying to keep the law of two states in my head. That's just more, and even when I did practice in Kansas, I always went and checked the statute in both states before I did anything, because if you check the statute, then you know for sure what it is. You write yourself a little memo so you know that you've checked it, and in that way you don't run afoul of it. But basically, I gave up my Kansas bar membership because I never planned to practice in Kansas again. And then, they say that if you really want to make God laugh, you should tell him your plans. Well, that's what I did. So I was working on this case up in Nebraska, which is a state that has some rather unique laws. You may not know this, but Kansas has a unicameral legislature. In other words, there's only one legislative entity. There's not a House and a Senate like there is throughout most of the other states. And one of the things that they had was a tort notification statute. In other words, if you're going to sue a city or a county or a state, you have to come in and you have to provide them written notice and give them an opportunity to settle the claim before you sue them. Now, they never settle the claim before you sue them, so basically it's just an opportunity to get a leg up on the litigation process. But it's the state and they get to do what they want, and that's what they want, so that's what they do. I was unaware of that statute, and the Nebraska lawyer who was helping us in that case was also unaware of the statute, and I blew it. I didn't get the claim filed with the city in time, and I lost the ability to sue that entity. Now, we did wind up recovering from the principally liable parties. This was a fall on a sidewalk, so part of the issue had to deal with the city's sidewalk. The other part of the issue had to deal with the negligent medical care that she received at a hospital up there. And so when I went to the client that we had, I said, there's a statute. I didn't know about this statute. The Nebraska lawyer who was helping us didn't alert us to this statute, didn't help us figure out to file in this statute. And I'm not throwing him under the bus, but the bottom line is we blew it. And then, because I am required to do this ethically, I said, you have a right to proceed against me. You have a right to go get independent legal counsel and evaluate my behavior, evaluate my actions, determine whether or not there was negligence. And if you find that there was, you have every right to sue me. We are insured, and I will be happy to give you our insurance carrier's name. And the lady didn't wind up suing us. And she said, well, I accept your apology and just, try and recover from the other guys. And so that's what we did. And we got a nice recovery for her. And I think she benefited quite handsomely from that. The only thing we weren't able to get for her was an apology. She got a verbal apology, but she asked for a written apology and she never got that. And yeah, we could have filed a motion to enforce, but it wasn't that big a deal to her. And I can assure you that she will never go back to that hospital. But again, sorry worked. And it worked because I really was sorry about what had happened. I apologized for the result, and I did exactly what my legal ethics told me I had to do. I didn't try to hide anything. I didn't try to lie. And the one sure way you can get in trouble in litigation is to lie. I'll give you two different scenarios in terms of this issue. In a case that we had out of Oklahoma where a little 2-year-old girl died from hyponatremia, the doctor knew what had killed her. But when mom asked him, he said, well, I guess we'll never know. And the fact that he had lied to her and she knew that he was lying to her, that was the key trigger that got her in to see an attorney. And then in another case that I was dealing with, we had a surgeon who had made some mistakes, we believed, and was partly liable for a patient's death. And when he came into court, he looked right at the jury and he said, "I loved Judy. She was one of my favorite people." And although he hadn't apologized up front, which might actually have kept him from being sued, he apologized during the course of the trial. It came off as sincere and legitimate. Now, whether it was, I don't know. You know, they say once you can fake sincerity, you've got it made. I don't know whether he was telling the truth or whether he was faking it, but either way, he did a good job of convincing the jury. And he also convinced us that it would not be practical to take the case forward against him. Again, a heartfelt apology that apologizes for the result and doesn't deal with fault is an excellent way to insulate yourself from liability. Here is the approach that you take. You approach the person that is, whether it's the surviving wife or whether it's the person lying on the ground at Walmart, and you say, "I am so sorry that this happened to you," or "I'm so sorry that, your husband died or your wife died. Is there anything that I can do for you? Any way I can help make this better?" And people often react differently in different situations. And one of the ways in which they react differently is they will either, basically just sort of crawl inside their shell and cry and tune you out, or they will strike out. "This is your fault. You did this. You're a bad doctor. You're a bad lawyer. You're a bad person." And they say a lot of stuff that in most cases they do not mean. And that is not the time to defend yourself. That's not the time to say, "Well, your husband was a mean man and he dressed funny." You don't do that. What you do is you say, "I can see that you're really upset. I'm happy to talk about this at a later time if there's anything that I can do for you or answer for you." And that's how you do it. You basically apologize for the result, but you don't get into fault. And if they bring up fault, you just sort of fog the issue and say, "We can talk about all of that later. Why don't you worry about getting yourself right now? And we'll talk later." And again, if you treat people nicely, most of the time they don't sue. But even when that 5% does sue, you reduce the amount that you or your insurance company is going to have to pay at some future point in time just by being nice. So that's my kindness moment for today. If you are kind, if you are nice, if you deal with people the way you would want to be dealt with, in about 95% of the situations, you can come out of it without having to pay money or without having to go through litigation. Because again, people don't sue people they like and respect, but they have absolutely no problem suing people they don't like and don't respect. That's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you have the opportunity today, go out and do something kind for someone else and catch me down here at the beach next time. If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.